Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm Jason Funderburger.
Dude, that made it onto the list for our Halloween movies because it's technically spooky.
Yep. It's the first week of October, so I figured might as well. So.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't know what Jeremy's quoting, educate yourselves and go watch Over the Garden Wall. You're the one who turned me onto it, and it's fucking phenomenal.
It was awesome. Now, if you are particularly sensitive to spooky material, like my wife is, she's sitting over there. There are some episodes that are very scary. She happened to walk in on the Auntie Whispers episode.
Jesus Christ, bro!
And I'm like, let's go ahead and shut this off. I'll turn it back on later.
Dude, fucking Tim Curry, dude.
Yeah. So,
no, dude.
I mean, it was spooky. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and that first episode, dude, that when the fucking dog's head comes in through the barrel.
Yeah.
I was like, holy Jesus, what the fuck is this? But then we'll see. The first episode, I would say, is the most spooky, and then it kind of mellows out for a couple episodes. And then, then it gets spooky.
The Auntie Whispers, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and then, dude, and then when we meet the Beast, dude. All right, we're not doing Demolition anymore. We're doing Over the Garden Wall.
Okay.
But no, everyone definitely go check it out. When you texted us about it, me and Alex, like, I had asked a lot of other people. It's like, hey, have you heard of this? And a lot of people were like, yeah, I heard of it. And I'm like, then how did I miss this?
Yeah.
Like
I thought for sure you were a fan. And so I was like, oh, I'm way late to this game. He's going to be so mad at me.
Nah, man. I was like, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
And now I'm in love. And even Ashley loves it. Like, well, Ashley really loves the Pottsfield episode.
Yeah.
Like, she fucking loves that shit. So yeah, everyone go check out Over the Garden Wall. It's on Hulu.
Yeah.
I guess this is kind of a recommendation.
Yeah.
And well, before we get into it, you started the last episode with some recommendations. So I have some recommendations.
Okay.
Also, if anyone can't tell, if you're watching the video, I got my I Am Ken Enough hoodie from the Barbie movie. And it's super hella comfy, and I had to wear it.
Of course.
So, yeah. Anyway, recommendations.
Right.
So if many of the listeners, Zach, remember, I am, and thank God your Wi-Fi's kind of acting weird, so I can't see your face because I don't want to see the look of disappointment on your face.
Uh-huh.
Everyone might know that I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson. Well, he just had on Netflix come out a short film called The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. And I was really looking forward to it because Benedict Cumberbatch was going to be the lead. And it was another Roald Dahl book, which Wes adapted for Fantastic Mr. Fox. So I was like, perfect. Knock it out of the park. And then I learned it was going to be a short film. And I was like, well, that's disappointing. And the reason why this is a recommendation is because I learned, apparently, Wes had the brilliant idea to adapt other of Roald Dahl's short stories in a series of short films. So, the fourth one just came out. It's called, so there's four. There's The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, The Swan, The Ratcatcher, and then Poison. I've only seen the first three. Ratcatcher is definitely the weirdest one. It definitely feels like more of the Roald Dahl kind of material.
Mm-hmm.
The Swan and The Wonderful World of Henry Sugar are so dialed in with Wes Anderson's style that it's peak Wes Anderson. So, like I said, see, now I can see your face. So I'm seeing the look of disappointment. But I loved them.
Not disappointed. It's your thing. I get it.
But the great thing about The Wonderful World of Henry Sugar is kind of. So with his last film, Asteroid City, it's a play within a movie. So what we're seeing is the play, or what we're seeing the actors do is the play, but it's presented as a movie. What Wes did with The Wonderful World of Henry Sugar is it's just straight up a play. Like they're reading, like the actors are saying cues, like Dev Patel is like looking at the camera going like, such as it I said, and then, so it's just it's that shit that I love. Everything's symmetrical, and also it's got a great cast. Benedict Cumberbatch, Dev Patel, Ben Kingsley, Ray Fiennes, Rupert Friend, he's in it. Yeah, that's right. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That was yours. I have one. I have mine.
Okay.
I mean, listen, if you like Wes Anderson, this is basically a gift, these short films. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of like if like Fincher or like Astor or Eggers would like make short films on Netflix. You know what I mean? Like I get it.
Well, I'm kind of hoping maybe these will get a physical release, and supposedly he's got to deal with Criterion, and I'm hoping they'll all get on like a supercut, because I think that would be, because Ray Fiennes has shown up in every single one, and he's playing Roald Dahl.
Oh, interesting.
So I feel like narratively it would make sense to supercut them all together, but I'm also not Wes, so
right.
So what's your recommendation, buddy?
My recommendation, it came out this year. I finally got the chance to see it, and it was absolutely incredible. The movie is called Past Lives.
Ooh.
It is the directorial debut of Celine Song, and it is tremendous. Two old friends meet in person and get to see each other and interact with each other after 24 years of being apart. And there might be some lingering feelings there. And she is married, he is not. It reminded me a lot of the Before trilogy. It's a lot of walking and talking.
Okay.
Put your reading glasses on. Most of it is in Korean.
That's fine.
So, but it was amazing. I loved it. I hope that, I don't watch the Oscars anymore, but I hope it gets some recognition because it deserves it. So,
yeah, I would hope so. I remember seeing a little bit about it. I didn't see the the actual trailer, but I remember A24, since it was distributed through A24.
Yeah.
And I follow them on Instagram of them promoting it, and I'm like, well, I mean, it's A24. Of course, it's probably going to be great, and
it is.
So I'm glad that one of us has seen it and says it's great.
It is. It's great. So
nice.
Yeah.
So there you go, everyone. Some recommendations. 100% go watch Over the Garden Wall.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable. And if you don't like my recommendation, well, hey, you know what? Jeremy's is a palate cleanser.
It's definitely less niche, I guess.
Yeah. But welcome back, everyone. Jeremy, I forget who's supposed to say, because this is my turn, right? Like, am I supposed to say what movie we're doing today?
I don't care.
I legitimately forgot our own format because my brain has been not working for the last 2 days.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say it. So welcome back, everyone. If you tuned in last week, thank you for starting with season 9. And shut up, bro. I don't know what is up with my brain. But today, this week, we are doing Jeremy's pick, Jeremy's turn. the 2015 comedy drama film Demolition, directed by, you're gonna have to say his name.
Jean-Marc Vallée, I think.
Yes, yeah. I remember his last name, Vallée, but I couldn't remember his. Yeah. Honestly, bro, this is the first movie of his I've ever seen.
Okay.
And first impressions, since you'd seen this, but I haven't. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And it does make me a little sad knowing, remembering what you said, that Jean-Marc is no longer with us. So we'll probably, so it's not probably, we will never get another film from him, which is deeply saddening because, you know, I remember Dallas Buyers Club, you know, raking in the Oscars.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this one a lot. Not because of the fantastic cast, but I think this is such a interesting story, almost like a character study of grief, of how we all grieve in our own ways, and how sometimes it takes longer for others, you know. And again, it helps that we have this just amazing cast, you know, brilliantly led by Jake Gyllenhaal, who was, if I did my research correctly, he was just coming off a Nightcrawler. So my man was just finished up with another banger.
The dude only does, I mean, he only makes bangers. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Big fan of Jake Gyllenhaal.
So you said last week that you're pretty confident you saw this movie in theaters. What did you remember about it the first time you saw it?
I remember, well, when I heard about it, I remember thinking, okay, Gyllenhaal, cool. The guy who did Dallas Buyers Club, cool. At least I think Dallas Buyers Club was before this.
I think it has, because I want to say on my Blu-ray it says from the director of Dallas Buyers Club, so I think he'd already done it by that point.
And Wild, he'd already done Wild also, and Wild is my favorite of his. With Reese Witherspoon. And I was like, cool. Sold. I thought the story was interesting. Sold. I live alone and have a ton of time. Sold. And saw it, was completely blown away by it. I loved everything about it, basically. And it was surprising because I went into it kind of thinking this is just going to be okay. You know? Like, this is going to be okay. My expectations were in the middle, right? But it exceeded my expectations. And then when I saw afterward all of the reviews, and I was like, did they not see the same movie I did? Because I loved it. And apparently no one else did. So
that's interesting. That's really interesting because, again, you know, it's such an interesting, and I'm going to say it again, like a character study in grief. Because it takes something that we kind of know, the death of a loved one, but sort of flips it on its head a little bit, you know, rather than, excuse me. Sorry, everyone. Jesus. I ate a little while ago. Instead of, you know, following our character with with survivor's guilt, and then, you know, overcoming their personal demons, and how they come out better than they did. This movie does something a little different, which is, it's hard to put my finger on it, but almost just like, for me, it was like it takes a village to pull a person back from their grief.
Yeah.
In a way. Okay.
Sure.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Nah, I don't think so. For me, yes, it was a unique take on it. It was a unique take on grief. It was a unique take on loss and how an individual deals with these things, and kind of subverting your expectations. You think this movie is going to go one way, and then it never does. And so And then it goes in ways that you're like, what is happening? Is he okay? Like, what, you know, have we forgotten about the dead wife, all that stuff?
Yeah.
And let's do a quick synopsis and then we'll get it up.
I was just about to say, like, if you want to go ahead and do that synopsis.
So we have Davis Mitchell. He and his wife Julie get Julie, right? Yeah, that's right. Anyway, get in a car accident. She dies. He walks away without a scratch. And the movie is him dealing with the idea that he may not. To him, he says that he didn't love his wife, right?
Right.
Which, spoilers, I don't think that's the case.
No,
but
no.
The movie,
and we'll get there.
The movie follows him dealing with this grief and this loss and this sort of this sort of emotional displacement, with him taking some advice that his father-in-law gives about, it was a metaphor of you need to dismantle something, find out what's important before you can put it back together, right? And he takes that literally and starts dismantling things in his life, literally starting with the refrigerator, right? And then he meets this woman by writing a complaint letter to a vending machine company, and then they strike up a friendship, and he becomes friends with not only her but her son, who is also going through some things in his adolescence. And again, the movie it culminates in the relationship between Davis and everybody else through the lens of this one loss and this one this one death in their collective lives. And again, it doesn't go the direction you think it does, right? Or that you're expecting. So yeah. So let's start with the idea of this of dismantling, right?
Okay.
Because he does take that quite literally. Davis starts, I love that he just goes to a construction site, pays the guys, and says, "Can I help?" And he's legit, like, once we go through the movie a bit, he's legit, like, going most days and legit helping. Like, he's not just in the way. He's not just breaking a wall down just cause. He's also working on other things, right? Which I thought was kind of funny.
Well, and I think that's where therein lies the comedy of this comedy drama, which is that he takes this, again, like you said, this metaphor of, we need to dismantle. I think Chris Cooper, how he words it is, we need to dismantle our heart so we can put it back together again.
Right. Find out what's important to put it back together. Right. And then I think he internalizes that because right before she died, his wife mentioned the refrigerator was leaking. Right.
Yes.
And so I think if that weren't the case, he may not have taken that piece of advice so literally. I think he had something to fix. Right. And it might even go as cheesy as, if he can't fix himself, he might as well fix this refrigerator.
Well, I like that though, because this idea of dismantling also comes in the form of his brutal honesty, with, his, I don't think I ever loved my wife.
Yeah.
So he is in a way working on himself.
Yeah.
But also simultaneously, taking everything that he can get his hands on apart. Like my favorite one, he dismantles the stalls in the bathroom.
In the bathroom, yeah.
Hilarious. And then I love that he neatly just arranges all the screws and the washers and just
Yeah.
leaves it all there for everyone. Like it's so good.
And people think that he's losing his mind. And really, I think it is just him just trying to fix it, right? He's trying to
Mm-hmm.
fix this relationship that he felt was disingenuous, right? He felt
Mm-hmm.
that maybe because of the way I feel right now, maybe that we got married because it was easy. We got married because we felt like we were supposed to. And not for anything more than that, right?
Right.
Because it was convenient. And I think he's reaching that conclusion a little too early because um, how he feels in that moment is just being grief stricken and not knowing what to
Yeah.
do, right? Feeling
Mm-hmm.
stuck. And again, then having something, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I think that if Phil hadn't have said anything to him, haven't have given him any advice, I don't know what Davis would have done. But um, Phil gave him this advice, which I keep going back to, but I do think it's very important. I think it's sort of that watershed moment for Davis, um, and him you know, kind of being sort of emotionally illiterate with himself, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like he's never processed emotion, and he even says himself he's never really paid attention to things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Especially because, during her wake, he sneaks off to the bathroom to cry, or at
Practice
least he
crying.
thinks, or practice crying, because he thinks he should be crying because he is so grief stricken and so probably still in shock a little
Hmm.
bit.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think he has, and I mean, he admits it, multiple times that he doesn't know how he should be feeling,
Hmm.
or why he's not feeling anything, you know.
Right.
Um, and again, like we said at the top of the show, that this subverts your expectations because, again, with what we've been talking about, is the dismantling in a normal movie about grief and loss. We'd see the character go on a quest of self-reflection or something like that. But Davis's self-reflection is, I just want to take everything apart. I want to know how it works, especially like my favorite with the grandfather clock. And he's
Uh-huh.
like, it's like, yeah, like the craftsmanship is gorgeous.
So what I love about Davis the most
Uh-huh.
is his brutal honesty. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this probably starts the moment that his wife dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then he starts noticing the importance of being honest, I think, and being
Yeah.
open and paying attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when he writes that letter, it's almost like he was pinching the hose all these years, and then he just let it go, right? So all of this honesty and all of this, self-reflection was backed up for so long, and then as he's writing this letter, it's just all pouring out on this page.
Yeah. Um, before I add to that, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I thought that was going to be the rest of the movie, was
Okay.
him just constantly, and yes, like he does write letters throughout the movie, but I thought it was going to be constantly him
Sure.
writing, and we were going to get flashbacks, and I was 100% on board.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck yeah, let's go, bro. Um, but again, I think the movie didn't have to rely on that. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I agree that he, especially in that first one, when he first sits down and, does the whole, like, my father-in-law, Phil, Phil, it helps that his name is Phil. And it's just, I think it, yeah, I think he's letting all of this come out. And then, as we see the letters get more and more honest,
Mhm.
um, like with the one that he hand delivers to Naomi Watts, which we'll get to, but it opens with, "Dear Karen, fuck Phil,"
Yeah.
you know, uh, his brutal honesty, like when he tells the guy who works for the Yankees, like, hey man, I don't know why I told you I worked in mattresses. I'm in finance. You probably think I'm a dick now. And the guy's like, hey, you know what, man? I don't work for the Yankees anymore. It's all good.
Yeah, I guess people are sort of very forgiving. If it comes to when you know that the honesty is genuine and that they're really being honest with you and they're really opening up to you, right? When you think that he started writing the letter in the first place because he just wanted a refund.
Yeah.
The dude is in like major, like he's like a hedge fund. He's in major finance. Like the dude is rich and he wants his like $1.50 back,
Yeah.
for the peanut M&Ms that are stuck in the vending machine,
Yeah.
Also, something that doesn't work that should. And that's probably where it started. But so, all right. The way this movie sort of pivots you one way and then jukes you is his relationship with Karen, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. So, you think they're going to end up in a romantic relationship, and maybe they will. I don't know. Right?
Before you finish that, I'm going to go and just tell you now, I would hope they don't. I would hope they stay really good friends.
Yeah.
Continue.
But they don't, right? At least not in the course of this film. Right? There is like a little thing at the end where Chris puts at the end of the letter that, his mom is single now, just so you know, FYI. Right? Whether or not Davis will like do anything with that, I don't know. But I love the relationship together because they really do complement one another and they really are helping each other out, right? Because Karen is also going through stuff, right? Like everybody else.
We don't get a lot of Karen's problems, which honestly I'm kind of glad for, just because I would feel like if we had these two characters and we both knew their problems, one, he doesn't know how to feel, the other with all her problems, I just feel like the movie would be too cluttered. Sure. As where we just get a little bit of her issues, which is she doesn't know how to connect to her son. Yeah. Anymore, I should say. Now that he's 15, which it was racking my brain. I was like, I know that kid.
Do you?
I don't.
Oh.
But I know the movies he was in, which are that movie that Mick G wrote and directed, The Babysitter, for Netflix.
Oh.
And then its subsequent sequel. He's the kid in both of those.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
He's awesome in this. I love his character. I think that, they work well together and they find each other because they're all stuck, right? Davis is stuck emotionally in this, like, I don't feel sad right now and I know that I should, right? And but I don't, therefore we must have not loved each other, right? Or at least I must not have loved her. And then she's stuck because she's trying to connect with her son. She doesn't know how. Chris is stuck because he's trying to find out who he is and doesn't quite know where to start. And he is scared of the possibility of the truth about himself, right?
Yeah.
And they mesh well together, right?
Yep. And I love that we get a little bit of that, especially with Chris and Davis so early on, with the whole you're using fuck all the wrong way. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, see, just like that. Like, fuck is a great word. Use it sparingly. If you keep using it all the time, it loses its power. Like, it's so good. Yeah. And then like Chris is still just like, what the hell? Like, yeah, see, like, I feel nothing and you're an idiot. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. And
I think it's just like after a moment of like him and Karen meeting and him meeting Chris, once all of that awkwardness is sort of settled, now you're comfortable. I think that's why I love this movie so much, is that I just feel comfortable because I know that he's not going to try to sleep with Karen, and we're not going to go down that road in films that they always tend to do. And Chris doesn't hate Davis for being friends with his mom. We get again that in the very beginning, and then it settles, and then we're fine, right?
Well, and I just now I just realized, Karen Karen is sort of the catalyst for Davis and Chris becoming friends, because we see more of, or maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like we see more of Davis and Chris interacting together than we do of Davis and Karen.
I think as the movie goes forward, I think that is true. We do see a lot of Davis and Chris together. I think it's like what I said earlier, I think it's just because they're both stuck, right? And they're trying to figure things out, right? And they're helping each other figure things out.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like it almost becomes about a boy for like 20 minutes.
Dude, shout out to About a Boy. I've never seen the Hugh Grant movie. I've only seen the TV show. But yeah, shout out to About a Boy. That's such a good story.
Yeah, and so and so it works in that sense too, because we know that there's nothing weird going on, right? They're just pals.
Yeah, they're just guys being dudes,
and they're helping each other out with their emotional stuntness, I guess.
I completely agree. Like especially when we get that scene in the warehouse, in the hardware store.
Yes,
where Chris just straight up asks Davis, "Do you think I'm gay?" And rather than Davis maybe having some subversion or maybe over explaining, he kind of takes it down to Chris's level, which is like, hang on, let's figure this out together. Like, do you think you're gay? Okay, you don't know. All right. Do you like girls?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like boys? And I personally, I really like that because, I feel like in most any kinds of movies, dramas, comedies, when there's always an adult and a kid, mentor mentee kind of relationship, it always seems like the mentor is always trying to talk down to the mentee,
Sure.
But it didn't feel like that with this. It felt like Davis was genuinely bringing it down to Chris's level and trying to help him on his journey.
Genuinely one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because it solidifies why I like Davis so much, is that he's gonna be super honest, right? But he's not gonna judge you either, right?
Absolutely.
And then as soon as they're done with the conversation, they go back to being goofballs.
Yeah, he's like, all right, jump in the cart,
and that's it.
Yeah.
The only ever time it becomes relevant is when Chris gets beaten up.
Oh, God, dude. We'll get to it, but I feel like that scene was so powerful because we didn't see the attack.
Yeah,
but we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I agree. And then especially, when Davis takes Chris back to his house, and he's like, yeah, so Chris was like, what are we doing? Davis was like, just like, we're dismantling my marriage. And he pretty much just tells him like, dude, you have free range, do whatever you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
And I love that I love that we get a little bit of the neighbors, because I was like, how are the neighbors not like doing anything? And then like we get a little bit of that when they throw like the table out the window and the neighbors like, what's going on?
Yeah. This is when you're kind of like, Davis has kind of lost his mind a little bit, and he really is struggling because he destroyed his house. But to him, that house is a representation of a marriage he doesn't understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a life he doesn't understand, because he fell like backwards into this corporate finance job in the first place because that's what Phil did, right?
Mm-hmm. And as you said, Phil had been grooming me to do this since I was 27.
Yeah. And I love how throughout the film, and this is, I think, one of the first times I'd ever seen this done like in a continuity way, with Davis stops grooming himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
he wakes up that first morning and doesn't shave,
Yeah.
And then throughout the movie, his hair gets longer and his beard gets longer, right? And I liked that was part of the continuity, and that was like, that was part of the story, which must have been very hard to do, practically.
I know. Yeah, I wonder if maybe they're like, all right, well, Jake's hair and beard aren't where they should be. We gotta stop for a little bit.
He strikes me as the type of guy who's like oh, this is like a day and a half, So
yeah, honestly, I wouldn't put it past Jake Gyllenhaal if he could just be like, oh, you need me to grow a beard in 5 days, dude, done.
I've seen him grow grizzly ones, so it's he can do it. I know he can.
Yeah.
But again, I liked that was sort of, and it's part of his character, that he is sort of stopped paying attention to those things that he felt he had to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love how the film maps it out, showing the routine so we know when he breaks it, right?
Yeah. And I love that he keeps trying to class up his his quote unquote blue collar look. He's got his Tim's on. He's got his probably Carhartt pants, but then he's got a button up with suspenders.
Well, here's what I think is going on, is that he knows he needs pants and shoes. Okay?
Yeah.
What he doesn't necessarily need to be sort of rugged is his shirt, right? And
that's true.
The scene where he puts the suspenders on is just because he bought the pants too big,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's like, shit. Well, I have 100 suspenders, so it's almost like which works for the character because it's sort of half and half. It's half this life he doesn't understand, and it's half this new journey and this new self-discovery, right? Which is probably
no, I agree, because at the end of the movie we kind of get a little bit of that too, where he's kind of back to wearing more classier, nice sweaters with nice pants, but he's still got those Timbs on.
He's got his Timbs on.
Yeah. So I think that was it. I think he still adapted this new journey that he took into his style now.
Mm-hmm.
He may not wear those pants again, but he's definitely going to keep wearing those Timbs. Those Timbs will last forever.
Yeah. We are not sponsored.
Imagine, like, try these new comfortable
Timberlands. I don't know. They'd be pretty cool, but
I've always wanted a pair, but also not,
Sure, I get it. But, I know exactly the feeling you
have. Okay. I want to talk about the juxtaposition of Davis versus Chris Cooper's Phil.
Okay.
Because as we're watching Davis, let's just say what it is, lose his mind because he doesn't know how to process his feelings and he's
losing his mind from the perspective of people that think they know him, right? Because if you were to look at him like his secretary and his coworkers and other sales guys and other finance guys, they only see him as that, right? They don't know that this is just like something he's doing because it's convenient.
Right.
That he was sort of forced into it in a way, or, as he was groomed into it. And so when you see him break away from that, people are like, he's losing his mind. And again, he kind of isn't. He's just figuring out who Davis is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then we have Chris Cooper's Phil, his father-in-law, who is really also struggling with this in his own way. Because and I love that Chris Cooper gives this just amazing monologue about, when a man loses his wife, he's a widower. When a child loses a parent, they're an orphan. And he was like, and there's no word for when a parent loses a child.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing him struggle, but he's trying to do the best thing he knows how to do to honor his daughter. And then he's watching his son-in-law, who he learned to love as his son, as you just said, in his eyes, lose his mind. And he doesn't know how to process it because he doesn't know how to help Davis. And I think that's why they have conflict throughout the movies, because Davis is telling him, like, no, I'm fine, I need to get through this. But Chris Cooper wants to help, Phil wants to help, but he doesn't know how to help. And the only way he knows how to help is just to be a dad, like like with his outgoing voice mail, with the whole, like, yeah, and if you need to get hold of Julie, she is no longer with us, so I guess she's unavailable too.
Yeah.
And Phil being like, if you had any respect for my daughter, you'll delete that fucking message.
Well, because it is, to an outside perspective, it's super disrespectful. And
it kind of is, yeah.
It makes,
well, not kind of, it is.
It makes no sense that he would do that. And again, it's because he's stuck. It's almost like what someone on autopilot would say. It's like, oh, and right, she's dead, so I guess that makes her unavailable. He's just emotionally stuck and emotionally stunted. But I think that Phil is also too, and it's because of how he is choosing to honor Julie with this foundation, with this scholarship, which has nothing to do with Julie at all. And Davis recognizes that. And this is, of course, where, once we get further into it, this is where it's proof he didn't not love Julie,
Yeah.
Because he knows that it's not right, but again, he's still figuring himself out, so he doesn't have time to figure out why it doesn't feel right. Instead, his reaction is to just disrespect it and not take it seriously and half-ass it and, be emotionally unavailable for it. And physically unavailable.
Yeah. Like prolonging the signing of the beneficiary forms to turn this life insurance policy into a scholarship. Showing up at the candidate interviews and just being a nuisance, really, but I love that, though, even though all that happened, he still, and we're building up to it, he still does think, well, once he kind of snaps out of it, he does think that the scholarship is a good idea, but he's still like, but it's not for me. It's not what I want to do for her. And again, that going back to what you said of Phil still being emotionally stunted because he thinks that's what they should do for her. And Davis is like, I don't think so.
So, okay. We're gearing up to what I think is my least favorite part of the movie, okay? Is the revelation that Julie was cheating on him. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that this is to justify Davis's feelings. Okay? We're like, oh, okay. it's okay that he's feeling this way because she cheated on him, had a baby with this person, and they got an abortion. Okay?
Yeah.
I think that was unnecessary. I think that if we just had him struggling with his emotions and where he stands with how he feels and how he's dealing with his grief and, you know, having these doubts of love for his deceased wife, I think that is raw and it's real and it's engaging and dynamic. I don't think we needed this revelation. Of the wife cheating.
I am on the opposite end.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of agree.
Compelling podcasting. Thank God.
I mean, I agree, but I don't. Like, I understand why you're saying that. And yeah, it does make more sense if we just kind of sat with Davis's feelings of doubt towards his wife. But I feel like we needed another catalyst. The only thing about it that I didn't like is how his mother-in-law reacts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I knew, I was like, as soon as he found out and I understood why he was starting to shave and put himself back together again, I was like, oh, it's because he's going to confront Margot and Phil, which he does brilliantly, if I may add. Although I did love the fact that Karen laughed at the guy who was trying to come on to her.
By the way, he does not speak for all swimmers. Just gonna throw that out there. Okay, go ahead. Some of us are nice.
Yeah. But I just didn't like how Margot reacted, you know?
Okay.
Like when, you know, so Davis tells this entire audience, you know, did you know she was pregnant? I just don't know why she didn't tell me. And Margot goes, because it wasn't yours, you know, and I took her to the procedure. And I wish she would have kept it. And the reason why I don't like that is because it implies that Margot is having less sympathy for what Davis is going through.
Mm-hmm.
But more to the point, as we see with Chris Cooper, Phil didn't know. As we see him sit down, it just in shock at the fact that Julie was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the fact that she cheated, but the fact that she was pregnant and she had an abortion. And I just felt like it was like, I understand why she was trying to drive a knife through Davis's heart.
Sure.
And like really stick it to him. Like, well, it wasn't yours. And I wish she would have kept it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's hurting her husband. Like this revelation hurt not one, but two people.
Uh-huh.
And so that's my only qualm with it, is that, yes, okay, from a writing standpoint and from a personal standpoint, I get why Margot was so cold and so relentless, honestly. But I feel like maybe it could have been written with a little bit more tact, because maybe she should have been trying to think about her husband's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just my thing with it.
I just felt that I felt that I feel that it was unnecessary, and that I don't know. Like I felt that we didn't need to hate Julie at all, right?
I agree.
Or feel any sort of negative way towards Julie, because that is, we're pretty far in this movie, and I feel a connection with Davis. Davis is not a bad guy. And so we're manufacturing, an antagonist kind of, or we're justifying his doubt of love for Julie. We're giving justification to that, and I didn't think that was necessary. I like the idea of him just so unaware of himself and so unaware of his emotional state that that's how he he concludes that he doesn't love his wife, and that's why I'm feeling this way. I like that. So I kind of forget about it after a while, because once we get to the end, it's sort of like, okay, well then,
Well, and I think, and again, as you kind of said it, is I think that, yeah, they were trying to manufacture this, maybe not hatred from the audience, but maybe distrust.
Or a justification of Davis saying, I didn't love my wife, which is normally a terrible thing to say.
Yeah. But I think maybe they were hoping for other audience members, maybe like me, where the fact that she had an abortion and probably broke it off with this guy, that would be like, oh, okay, well, we forgive her now, maybe that's why in the final act of the movie, the final 15 minutes, it's kind of just forgotten about. Because they're like, well, hey. Yeah.
Or just a realization that, or Davis's, I guess, realization, or everyone's, that, it's like mistakes were made, but, it's okay. Davis wasn't there for her emotionally, I bet. And wasn't there mentally, which is implied through flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And that, she found that emotional and intimacy somewhere else. Right.
Yeah.
And Davis sort of, I think at that point, Davis knows that that's how he was. And he is now more emotionally intelligent, that he can recognize that and know that moving forward, he's going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this is with the carousel.
Yes. And I love how we get that build up where, he visits Julie's grave after the revelation of the fact that she cheated. And to be honest, I suspected, he's going to deface the gravestone or something, because I'm sure maybe that's why he went, is to think about everything.
Sure.
And then we meet the guy that hit the car that caused Julie's death. And again, this is another thing, what you're saying of subverting your expectations. When we get the reveal that he's the one who did it, you probably, suspected Davis to be angry, to want to beat the shit out of this guy, to do something. And he forgives him. Like, it's okay.
Davis comforts him, right?
Yeah.
Which is monumental. So, what it is I think Davis is sort of like realizing that this event, has made him kind of a better person, in a weird way, or at least a person that's not on autopilot.
Yeah, because as we see, he finally, when he gets back in his car, he finally breaks down.
Yeah.
And as we see, when he asks Phil to meet him, he tells Phil, there was love there between Julie and me. Like, there was love, but I didn't take care of it. And again, as we've been saying, this was him sort of admitting to himself, no, I did love my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't put in the time. I didn't put in the effort to show her that I did love her.
Mm-hmm.
But now he can.
Yeah.
Because as he tells Phil, scholarship's a great idea. I fully support it. But I want to do something for her. Mm-hmm. And I want you to be a part of this. And then we get the reveal of the carousel.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if it was 4, but they used a lot of special needs children.
Right, special needs children, yeah.
As we sorry, my watch just vibrated. As we learned that Julie worked with special needs children.
Yeah.
And so it's, not to make a pun here, but it's full circle from what we learned a little bit about Julie in that first letter.
Yeah.
The first complaint letter, which is she works with special needs children and she likes the beach.
Yeah.
And he puts a carousel right next to the beach.
Yeah.
And it's so good because Davis is finally happy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that on your screen?
Yeah. What
the fuck? I think this has, if anyone just saw that, I think there's like controls or something. I'm gonna try it again. Okay, I did do it. That was weird.
That was bizarre.
Anyway, so Davis is finally happy.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil and I'm gonna assume Margot, definitely Phil, are happy that Davis is happy and that Davis is, I guess, quote unquote, snapped out of it.
Yeah.
And especially because they name it Julia's Carousel.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just, it's so good, man. Like everything in the story eventually comes full circle.
Yeah.
You know, Davis no longer has this need to want to take things apart.
Mm-hmm.
He's, as you said, I agree with you. This traumatic event has made him a better person, and he's grown and figured out what he needs to be now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I love that the movie doesn't end there. I would say a lesser movie would end with the reveal of the carousel and then rolled credits.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that we don't end there and that we end with a letter from Chris. That Chris wrote to Davis. And it's just, it's almost like Chris knew that Davis was going to get better. But hey, one last hurrah, go to the pier. And, oh, see, he did it again.
Did it again. It's so bizarre. I don't like that.
Yeah, neither do I.
Go
to the pier and you won't be sorry. And he witnesses 2 buildings getting demolished.
Yeah.
And it's almost like him closing the chapter on that. You know, and it's just,
yeah,
it just ends so well, bro.
Yeah. And then him getting in that foot race with the kids, and winning, of course, because he's an adult. But yeah, no, and I love, it's a happy ending. You do have, again, that little hint that he may go and see Karen again, and maybe romance will ensue, who knows. But that everybody's okay, and that they've worked through most of this grief, loss, and trauma. Do I understand the negative reviews? Yeah.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
If you're not in it, like if you're not sold on this premise, then the pacing is going to kill you. The way the plot unfolds is going to kill you.
Yeah.
Because you're going to think a lot of this is filler nonsense, or you're going to not understand why these people aren't doing what you expect them to do. You're going to think that Chris, coming out, being, gay, going to the nightclub, getting beat up is nonsense and not worth your time. And it doesn't fit. But I disagree. And I think it all works perfectly together. And I think it all makes perfect sense. And I guess I wish more people thought so. Because it really is great.
No, I agree. I really enjoyed it. I told Mom that we were doing this, and she was like, oh, I love that movie.
Really? Nice.
I was like, oh, great. I'm glad you know it. I was like, Jeremy told me that no one went to see the movie,
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. I liked how dry the humor was. And again, the humor was more in him just wanting to take everything apart.
Sure.
But it was just really good, man. I know we said it at the top of the show, but I'll say it again, man. Jake Gyllenhaal can't make a bad movie.
I agree.
Anything with him in, I'm sold. And again, him and Chris Cooper back together again
I know.
after October Sky.
I know, it's the best.
I wonder if they were like, well, I mean, I'm sure they probably kept in touch after October Sky, but I wonder if they were just, you know, like chit-chatting in between scenes, like, hey man, like, how are you doing, buddy? You doing good?
This is a complete aside, okay? We're wrapping up, so I feel okay. There is an interview that, and I'm sure I sent it to you when it came out, because it was bananas. Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal are doing an interview together because they're in this movie together. And the interviewer mentions, hey, was it weird working together again because you guys played father and son in The Day After Tomorrow? And
they were
Jake
like,
Gyllenhaal
what?
goes, we did? And Dennis Quaid goes, yeah. And he goes, are you sure? He goes, yeah. And then the light bulb goes on, and Gyllenhaal goes, that's right, that was you. Oh my! It's because they didn't really have any scenes together.
Yeah, I think they have
like 1 or 2 scenes together. That's it.
They only have one. They only have one scene, and that's when his dad rescues him at the end of the movie.
See, like, Gyllenhaal doesn't remember that, and I think it's so funny. But I don't know. It's just how things work, I guess. When you're working on a movie, you don't really, why hang out if you're not going to be there?
Right.
But I thought that was so funny that he didn't remember that they worked on that movie together. A movie I've seen 10 times at least.
Yeah, dude, Day After Tomorrow, bro. Yeah, so good.
Again, Gyllenhaal doesn't make a bad movie. It's
yeah. Hang on, this is another kind of tangent, but since we're speaking of Jake Gyllenhaal in interviews, I saw this one where he was with Tom Holland and they were promoting Spider-Man Far From Home, and Gyllenhaal was intentionally memeing out where he was like, yeah, Benedict Cabbage Patch, his grandfather invented Cabbage Patch Kids, and that's how he got the role of Dr. Strange.
So stupid.
And it's just, and Tom Holland's just sitting there, just kind of like, Cabbage Patch, like, because he's like, where's Jake going with this?
Yeah, Holland is still sort of like, he's cool with interviews and doesn't mind it. Gyllenhaal's sort of over it, and so
yeah,
just being a buffoon during all these interviews.
Well, it's like the one with him and Ryan Reynolds when they were promoting that movie. When they were promoting that movie Life, and they're like, how's it feeling wearing socks in space? And they're like, oh my god, it's the best.
Yeah, those guys are goofballs when it goes because they're over it. Like,
yeah,
you have to do 100 of these and they ask you the same questions every time. And that would drive anybody crazy.
Yeah. What was it like to work together?
Ugh, so boring. It's like every interview is like a Jimmy Fallon late night interview. Could you imagine? No thanks.
Oh, hey, even though he got accused of toxic workplace, he's coming back, bro.
Honestly, I'm just happy to know he's interesting. Can we just leave it at that?
He promotes a toxic work environment.
Oh, and that he might be a complete drunk. Thank God, like he's not just.
I thought that was already. I thought people already knew that he had a drinking problem.
I don't know. But at least he's interesting. That's all I care about. Thank God. Anyway, so some wrap up. Go ahead.
Wrap up.
Thank you. So obviously the movie's fantastic. Obviously, it's completely different than a movie that you would expect this to be. And I think it's all the better for it. And it introduced me to a band that I thought only had one song, and I'm so happy I know them now. Free is probably one of the best bands to come out of the late 60s and early 1970s. Their album Fire and Water is absolutely incredible. It does have the song that I thought was their only one, which was All Right Now. But Oh, I Wept, Mr. Big, which is featured in this movie. The song, the titular song, Fire and Water, Remember, all of it is tremendous. A recommendation to end on, go listen to that album. It's amazing.
Yeah. We rarely ever talk about music on the podcast, even though you and I are big music connoisseurs.
We do like me. I wouldn't call myself, I'm not that knowledgeable, but I do love music. I love the band.
Your vinyl collection speaks volumes.
I mean,
you being a music.
I do like music. So, yeah. But yeah, Free. Oh, the best. Another show that uses Free to their advantage is Devs. Alex Garland's miniseries. There's an episode that begins with "Oh, I Wept," and it is so good, used beautifully. So, again, a band that you may not think about too often that is very good. So
nice. All right, buddy. Well, are you ready to hear what we're going to talk about next week?
Yeah.
So, everyone, off mic, when I was trying to decide on what I wanted to do next, I had my Siri pick a number between one. See, now it heard me. 1 and 10, and she picked this one. And you know what? It's a long time coming. I feel like, considering that you and I actually really like this movie. We've both seen this movie.
Oh, okay, cool.
And we have a lot of. I feel like we're gonna have a monumental task ahead of us with this movie. Because there's a lot of old Hollywood tricks and gags and things like that in it. So next week we are doing the 2008 animated film WALL-E.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Criminally underrated Pixar movie. Criminally underrated. And probably one of my favorite box arts to come out of Criterion. Hopefully
Definitely.
Future Rain will have that on the screen.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love this movie so much, and there's a lot of old Hollywood stuff in it.
Yes, agreed. It is. Is it my favorite Pixar film? Does that make me a snob? Because I also love Monsters, Inc. and The Incredibles, so I don't know. But
no, I mean,
I love how beautiful this film is. I love how minimalist the dialogue is. That is truly mostly visual. Yeah, and God, those end credits. Oh, jeez Louise. Yeah, that movie's incredible. Not because of The Incredibles, but the WALL-E is tremendous. And this is, you're right. We do have quite the task, which is what I thought, when we've assigned ourselves some in the past, like The Godfather, right? Which I think we did okay. And
I think we did great.
Back to the Future, that was a daunting task. Not that we don't have more this season. I think that we do. When you said 2008, I thought you were going a different direction. So that one's going to be hard. But just because I know your list. But that one's going to be really hard too. But WALL-E. Excited.
Yeah, man. Yes. So am I. Super excited. I'm trying to think. Have we done? I know we've done animated movies. Like a Goofy movie.
Mm-hmm.
But have we done one like this yet? I don't think we have.
For real? I mean, the Goofy movie was for real.
Well, let me rephrase the question or rephrase the statement. One that was fully CGI.
No,
I don't think we've done one yet.
I don't think so.
No. Yeah, man, I'm super excited.
Me too.
Mainly because it gives me an excuse to crack open my Criterion.
Definitely.
Even though I could watch this on Disney Plus, I'm not going to. I'm going to watch the Criterion version.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah.
So, everyone, we hope you enjoyed Demolition, and we will see you next week for Wally.